Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm back and I'm hitting you with a bomb right out of the gate, man. The front office has their eyes glued to the trade market, and there's one idea that could totally shake up Herbert's protection. Meanwhile, an old favorite might be on his way out, even with some major names returning to the roster. And get this, a potential reinforcement nobody was even talking about is gaining serious traction behind the scenes, a guy with the exact style Harbaugh loves. To top it all off, the offensive line drama just will not stop. It's insane how much is happening at once, and some of this news is going to blow your mind. But before we really dive into this whole mess, let's show some love for the team right here too. Hit that subscribe button. It's free and it builds up this Chargers community we've got going. Drop a like to spread this news to everyone who bleeds powder blue and gold like we do. And definitely comment below. I want to know what the Bolt gang is feeling right now. What's the vibe check on this team? Dude, the Chargers offensive line situation is turning into a soap opera, you kidding me? Harbaugh always made it clear. This team starts in the trenches, right? But man, it's been tough to keep that plan upright. First, it was Rashawn Slater, done for the season before it even started. Then Joe Alt, who was supposed to be the pillar on the left side, twists his ankle and is suddenly sidelined. And to make things worse, Mekhi Becton is in this back and forth spiral that doesn't help anyone. In the middle of all this chaos, a name is starting to surface that could actually change the landscape. Evan Neal. For real, last week the team finished the game with Austin Deculus and Bobby Hart protecting Herbert. Deculus, who was basically a reserve of reserves in Houston, and Hart, who hadn't even played an NFL snap since 2022. And yet they played every single down. That shows you the coaching staff's desperation. The roster is running on fumes. So, in comes this proposal from Bill Barnwell at ESPN. Trade almost nothing for a shot at Evan Neal, the Giants' former first-round pick. The Chargers would send a 2028 sixth-rounder and get Neal plus a seventh-rounder back. That sounds like couch change, right? But it could make a ton of sense. Neal was an absolutely massive talent coming out of Alabama, but he never clicked in New York. Injuries, instability, and a system that didn't help at all. Now, with a light contract and a chance to prove himself before free agency, he becomes a super cheap gamble. And look, the line is so full of holes that any guy with pedigree and a minimum of health is worth the test. Just picture it. He comes in, doesn't need to be an immediate starter, but starts rotating in practice, builds confidence, and who knows, maybe he becomes a solid rotational piece. If it works out, it keeps Harbaugh from having to improvise with guys playing out of position. Barnwell nailed it when he said, "Nobody needs a tackle more than the Chargers." And it's true. This urgency feels like a classic Harbaugh move. Pragmatic, no frills, focused on what the team needs most to protect Herbert. Come on, man, watching the franchise quarterback surviving behind a patchwork line is painful. So if the price is low and the ceiling is still there, why not take the risk? This could be the kind of reinforcement that changes the offense's whole dynamic, brings stability, and boosts the locker room morale. And if Evan Neal finds even half of what he promised in the 2022 draft, my friend, the value would be absolutely absurd. This changes everything, and trust me, the Chargers' next move is going to catch a lot of people by surprise. Okay, this next one hit the locker room hard. The Los Angeles Chargers had to make that kind of move that breaks a fan's heart, cutting someone to make space and get competitive again. The team activated Khalil Mack and Denzel Perryman to the active roster, which is huge news in itself, but they had to say goodbye to a guy a lot of people really respected, Caleb Murphy. Murphy was the kind of story that fans love to follow. Undrafted, chased it hard, earned his spot, and became a fan favorite because of his hustle. He always played with fire in his eyes, did the dirty work on special teams, and even without flashy numbers, he represented the spirit of the team. That's why seeing him wave just to open a roster spot caught everyone off guard. The decision came before the Colts game. The team needed to balance the roster after injuries and adjust the linebacker group. And there was no way around it. They activated Mack and Perryman, two heavy hitters who completely changed the intensity level of the defense. But to make everyone fit, Murphy ended up being the odd man out. It's that cruel dilemma. Young talent with potential, but no immediate space to play. To top it off, the Chargers signed long snapper Rick Lovato to the practice squad, elevating him and running back Nyheim Hines for Sunday's game. These are moves that show Harbaugh and the GM are turning over every stone to keep the roster functional, even with key guys missing. But hey, fans can get pumped. Seeing Mack back is a reason to breathe a sigh of relief. His injury looked like it was going to be weeks, and the dude is already ready to roll, even if it's limited. Perryman is essential too. He brings order to the middle of the defense, organizes communication, and has that instinct that's missing when he's not on the field. With those two returning, the Chargers look aggressive and disciplined on defense again. Now the emotional side stings. Murphy might be brought back if he clears waivers, but it's not guaranteed. And if another team snags him, it's going to hurt to see that guy in a different jersey. Fans feel it because he carried that energy of someone always trying to prove he belongs. Ultimately, it's a typical NFL move. Cold, but necessary. The Chargers needed their leaders back and had to sacrifice a promising project. Tough, but that's the game. And hold on tight, because the next name being tossed around could be that perfect fit reinforcement for the Harbaugh style. You know that kind of reinforcement that just seems custom made? Yeah, Zach Moss's name started circulating hard behind the scenes, and honestly, it makes total sense. The Chargers offense has been limping without Najee Harris and the rookie Omarion Hampton, two guys who gave the running game depth and rhythm. Without them, Greg Roman lost some of the essence of Harbaugh's plan, a physical offense that chews clock and punishes the opponent with consistency. And that's where Moss enters the conversation. At 27, he's coming off a good stint with the Bengals. He's healthy and he's a free agent. A straight-ahead runner, north-south, contact, quick reads, zero BS. That is exactly the kind of mentality Harbaugh values. And the best part, he doesn't need perfect holes to produce. Even with the unstable line, the guy can grind out yards with pure strength and vision. Technically, he's a fantastic fit for this offense. He could be used for immediate rotation, get snaps and power packages, and dominate on short yardage downs, especially in the red zone. Plus, he gives Roman space to redesign hybrid plays like play action and RPOs to give Herbert more flow. Because let's be real, the offense has been predictable the last few weeks. With Moss, that run-pass balance would be way more even. And there's another factor, quarterback protection. Moss blocks well against the blitz, understands the game, and isn't afraid of contact. That gives Herbert confidence to work more calmly in the pocket. And as a bonus, it takes pressure off a line that's been improvising week after week. Financially, the package is doable, around $4 million a year. Within the current cap, it's a clean deal. Low risk, high impact, and culturally, total fit. Moss has that competitive fire that Harbaugh loves. He's the type of guy who says little but works hard. The kind who gets his uniform dirty and is the first one up after the tackle. In the locker room, he'd be a positive addition. The leaders, Herbert, Derwin James, Mack, have that disciplined, demanding profile. Moss would fit that vibe effortlessly. And for the fans, it's the kind of reinforcement that excites without feeling like a random gamble. It shows the team wants to win by playing the Harbaugh way, heavy, physical, controlling the game, and commanding respect. In the end, the name Zach Moss carries a bigger message than it seems. It's not just about reinforcing the backfield, it's about identity. The Chargers want to be that team that dominates on the ground, wears out the opponent, and makes the clock their friend. And if this deal goes through, brace yourselves, because the Harbaugh style is about to become even more evident. And hold up, there's still more. The next piece of news hits right at the heart of the fandom. And here comes the part that hurts the most for us fans. Justin Herbert is still suffering behind an offensive line that just will not give him a break. It's become routine to check the injury report and see half the starters out or limited. And this story, man, it started even before the season when Rashawn Slater tore his patellar tendon and was lost before week 1. Since then, the foundation started cracking. The plan was simple. Move Joe Alt to the left side and let Trey Pipkins III hold down the right. But Alt twisted his ankle against the Giants, and even without going to IR, he's still out. Pipkins isn't playing either. Jamari Salyer, who was one of the few reliable options, is now questionable. And to top it all off, the team is still trying to patch things up with veterans like Bobby Hart, who hadn't played since 2022. That's the kind of situation no quarterback deserves. Last week, they held up okay, only 1 sack, but the bill is coming due. Every game, Herbert leaves more pressured, taking hit after hit. And with an opponent like the 5-1 Indianapolis Colts and their dominant defensive line, things could go south fast. The problem is that the lack of consistency on the line changes everything. The offensive plan gets limited, Roman can't establish the run game, and Herbert has to force throws that aren't ready. That even affects the team's emotional rhythm. You can feel the energy shift when he gets knocked down too much. It's almost like the offense loses confidence in its own plan. And Harbaugh knows it. He keeps repeating that protection is culture, and without a solid base, his physical style can't exist. That's why moves like the Evan Neal one feel so urgent. The coach doesn't want to keep improvising with tackles who have practice squad experience. He wants stability, confidence, and most importantly, continuity. Now, what really worries me is Herbert's health. The guy is tough, plays through pain and never complains, but the franchise needs to protect him for real. No offensive plan survives with the quarterback living under constant pressure, and if this injury wave continues, the Chargers risk wasting another season due to a lack of structure, not talent. The fans feel it, the roster feels it, and Harbaugh feels it even more. This team has the potential to contend in the AFC, but until Herbert has a decent wall in front of him, every game is going to feel like pure survival. Just watch, because what's coming next is the kind of feeling only those who live the Chargers life truly understand. Look, after all that, you can see that this is a turning point for the Chargers. There are smart moves being considered, leadership is returning to the field, and there's that sense of urgency that only appears when a team feels like they can still turn things around. Harbaugh is making it clear he wants to build a group that can take a hit, not one that collapses after the first injury. And with Herbert still fighting, this roster deserves credit. The season is far from over, and the message is simple. Anyone doubting the Chargers right now is going to be surprised. Comment below. This space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes the Chargers.